Hello. Okay. All right. I see. Is the thinking majigga bob moving? Give me a moment, y'all. Hello. Okay. All right. I see the thing moving. All right. Ah, let me get center into the camera. I know this is a new setup, a new layout. This is for. I mean, I literally just did this on the fly because my co-host is not here. He had other prior obligations that he had to do, so I said, you know what? No problem. Don't worry about it. I can wing it tonight. I can hold down the fort tonight. So that's exactly what I'm doing tonight. But I want to appreciate all y'all for tuning in, coming through, watching. And of course, I have to do the honors, and that is the intro. Good evening, everybody. What is going on? Episode 123 of the Southward Gamers Podcast. I am your host, the Silver Rex Senpai, and I am alone tonight. Yes, I am alone. I do not have my co-host here with me. Waluigi had other obligations that he had to take care of tonight, so it's just me in the studio. So yeah, y'all gonna have to deal with me tonight. Unfortunately, I understand it's not. Hello. Uh, I cannot wait to upgrade these mics. Cannot wait. But bro, why? Hello. Okay, there we go. That's weird. That is just like going in and out and whatnot. But anyway, that's besides the point. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, watching, or listening. Either or. Forever. We are. Bro. Okay, hold on, y'all. There we go. Whatever. Anyway. Anyway. As I was just having difficulty with that. But yeah. It's just myself in tonight. And I ain't gonna lie, we did start it late, or I started late, because was supposed to be here a little bit earlier, but I ain't gonna front. I was feeling a little bit lazy today after I got off from work. I was just really enjoying myself. Yeah, you can add whatever puns that you want or whatnot. I don't care, but I was just, enjoying myself, just relaxing at home. And I was like, damn, I really gotta be here to set up the podcast for myself for solo. So I just pretty much just made this layout like on the fly, just so that I have something to put out there. So it ain't the best, but hey, we're just gonna rock with it. I'll probably have this like as a template for, I don't know, maybe when me and Waluigi come back on, I can have like the camera like have me centered like this, as you guys are seeing. And then of course, whatever we're putting on the desktop, you guys actually see it in big screen, so that way for those that are watching on Facebook or YouTube. I was thinking about maybe I should stream to Instagram as well, because I do have that following there if I can interact with. But trying to bring them over here, trying to bring them to the YouTube, to Twitch, to have the conversations and whatnot. And I know before we even get on the topics, it's just me just, talking and whatnot. And I also forgot to bring the other phone, my secondary phone for the call-ins. So there is not going to be any call-ins tonight, unfortunately, because again, that's on my bad. I did not properly prepare for this solo episode for myself. So yeah, that's why we were late. That's why, well, we not we, but me. That's why I was late, and I set everything up. And yeah, here we are. Very professional of me to do. But anyways, it's gonna be a short episode because it's just me by myself, and I'm gonna be talking to y'all. For those that pull up on the chat and ask some questions. But all right, first topic: PS5 is outpacing PS4 while Xbox Series trails Xbox One in sales. So, of course, this is coming from Insider Gaming. The sales of the PS5 are better than that of the PS4. This is according to the late United States sales data from Circana. Per the data, the PS5 is outpacing the PS4 in terms of sales by 7% after its first 52 months on the market. As of the end of the year, the PS5 has sold 75 million systems total, while the PS4 has sold 117.2 million consoles globally in its lifetime sales. Moving from blue to green, the sale numbers for the Xbox Series X and S systems aren't as promising. According to Circana, the Xbox Series consoles are behind the Xbox One through 52 months by 19%. Looking at global sale numbers for context, the Xbox Series has sold roughly 32 million according to VG Charts. The Xbox One has sold approximately 57.9 million units worldwide. It's worth noting that the pacing numbers from Circana as specific to the performance in the US. The global sales data is just to give added context. Elsewhere in terms of sales, video game hardware has continued to drop. Y'all hear that? Video game hardware has continued to drop. In February 2025, hardware sales fell by 25%, total with generally accessories falling by 8%. What do you think of the PS5 continuing to outpace the PS4 in terms of sales? What about the state of Xbox? Let us know down below and join from blah, blah, blah. Okay, so my thoughts on this subject is that I'm not surprised with hardware sales dropping because most of us, and I'm guilty of this as well, we typically buy our games digital for the most part instead of physical. If we don't want the physical media to go away, if we want to always make sure that we always have a game disc whenever we buy our games, then we as gamers, as consumers, definitely need to step up and start buying our games physically. I should take my own advice, but I never do. But I would say for the start of this year, I only bought 2 games physical. That is, no, I bought 1 game physical, and that was Monster Hunter Rise. And snitching on myself on this one, the new Bleach game that is coming out in a couple of hours is going to be available for digital only buyers later tonight. So I'm going to get a chance to play the game, Bleach, Rebirth of Souls. So I'm going to be able to play that game. But yes, I bought that game digitally instead of physical. Should have bought the disc. But yeah, that's on me. But yeah, us gamers, we do contribute to the downfall of hardware sales. We're not buying a lot of games physically anymore. And then, of course, when it comes to accessories, I'm not surprised that, hardware sales are down. And I think that's simply because when I think of the PlayStation 5, I think of the controller. Then, of course, you have the Pro controller. And there's really not that many accessories. Of course, you have the PSVR 2, which is not backwards compatible with the PSVR 1. The PSVR 1 games back in the PS4 era, but that's Sony's fault for not making the PSVR 2 backwards compatible. Hence, now it's just a completely wasted product. Sucks to suck. But I would say overall, when I look at hardware sales, I would say the only thing people would get for their PS5 console is probably going to be a controller, and that's about it. I don't see many people buying certain accessories or special accessories to enhance their gaming experience when it comes to the PlayStation 5. I would say for the most part, most people are just buying controllers, and the controllers themselves are not that cheap. I think if we had third-party controllers, which I mean we do, but they're god awfully expensive. But I would say the lower budget third-party controllers, because we still don't have those for the PS5 yet. in 2025, a console that's about to be 5 years old, and yet we still do not have third party controllers. It's crazy. But overall, with this article, PS5 outpacing PS4. It's slowly getting there, but there's still being games still being made for the PS4. So it's only going to be a matter of time until PS4 owners slowly make that transition to PS5 if they want to. I know a few people are still hanging on to their PS4, and that's because the fact that there's still a lot of games on the PS4. They still have like a huge backlog of games that they can just go back and play or start and whatnot. And then of course for new games like you have Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, that's also available on the PS4 as well. So you even have a new fighting game coming out that's going to be on the PS4 coming next month. A big hit fighting game at that, and people are still playing it. You still have people still playing Street Fighter 6 on the PS4. So it's just like, people have not a lot of people have made that transition, but people are getting PS5s because they're becoming more accessible now compared to a couple of years ago where people had to wait maybe a year or two just to get their console. I mean, it's ridiculous, but that's the state of the gaming world as it was back then compared to now. But as far as the Xbox, I'm not surprised. Like it's like the X Series, X and S. Granted, the X Series is the most affordable option, and it's not better as far as specs wise. It is not better than a PS5. If anything, it's better than the PS4 Pro, but it's not better than a PS5 base PS5 at that. But it is definitely a much better affordable option out of the two. But as far as the gaming experience, I mean, it depends on what your flavor is or what's your preference. But most people are on the PlayStation 5 due to the exclusive games and just the overall gaming experience there. As to the Xbox, even though there is a fan base still there, but as far as sales wise, when it comes to the consoles, like it's the Xbox Series is going to take a while until maybe it surpasses the Xbox One, but I doubt it, especially within its current life cycle now. I doubt it. But as I close out this topic and just my final thoughts on this overall, do I see the PS5 completely surpassing the PS4 in terms of console sales? I don't think so. I really don't see it happening. So I think people are still going to hold on to their PS4s just for, I would say, I give it another 2 to 3 years until people decide to, all right, I'm going to finally make that transition to PS5, or they just end up going the PC route because they want their games to just have much better performance. Who knows? But I don't see the PS5 outpacing the PS4 like overall, like surpassing their number of lifetime sales. I don't see that happening. Granted, yeah, the PS5 is a much powerful console than the PS4, but as I've said in previous episodes, the PS5 is nothing more than a PS4 Pro version 2. It's just a little bit better. It's just another version of the PS4 Pro, but just a much better version of it. Granted, yeah, there are some features that I do like playing my games at 120 hertz. I'm always going to keep saying that. I think that is a great feature, but I also think that that could have happened on the PS4. But I think the technology back then, what they had in mind, I'm pretty sure they thought like, you know what? I think it's not possible with the PS4, like the base PS4 Pro. So I think they just said, you know what, we're gonna go with the PS5. We're gonna put SSDs instead of just a regular hard drive. So, as technology evolves, we are slowly evolving with it, adapting to it as time progresses. So that's just my thoughts on it. I don't see the PS5 overtaking PS4. I think the PS4 is just going to remain the dominant one. And there's still a lot of people still gaming on PS4 to this day. So do I think PS4 owners are missing out on the PS5 experience? They're not missing out. They're still having a good time. So anyway, Moving on to our next topic. Smash Bros. Sakurai says Japanese devs should focus on domestic, not Western tastes. I fully agree. Before I even read this article, I fully agree with this take because if this is a JRPG game, if it is a Japanese game, I want to experience it for I want to experience like their taste. I want to experience you know, their culture, their tropes, things like that. Their norms, cultural norms at that as well. Because it makes you appreciate Japanese culture. So if there's a game that's being made in Japan, that's being published in Japan, it developed in Japan, keep it Japanese. Versus you have games that are made and developed here in the United States, same thing. Like keep the culture the same. Like it should not have to try to appeal or like of course you want your games to appeal to a much broader audience, but you should not forsake your own domestic cultures. So, I'm going to go ahead and read this article. Sakurai argues that overseas players don't want Japanese studios to make Americanized games. I agree. I agree. Super Smash Bros. And Kirby creator Masahiro Sakurai says Japanese developers should focus on making games for the Japanese market instead of trying to appeal to Western players. Earlier this month, it was announced that Sakurai has been listed as one of the recipients of the Art Encouragement Prize for New Artists given by the Japanese government's Agency for Cultural Affairs. Rather than achieving the award for any of his video game works, Sakurai's honor is instead for his YouTube series, Masahiro Sakurai on Creating Games. Last week, Sakurai collected his award and gave an interview to Japanese entertainment news website Intax, as spotted by Automaton, in which he said he felt that Japanese studios should focus on what domestic audiences like rather than trying to make a game that may appeal to the West. Yes, I agree. Many of us gamers agree with this take. Like, yes. Because me, that's over here in the West, I would like to experience, as I said earlier, I would like to experience Japanese culture. I would like to know your cultural norms. I would like to know your cultural tropes, the good, the bad, the stereotypes, you name it. I want to know about it because I find it fascinating, because I find it intriguing. I'm very interested in it. That's why I like playing a lot of JRPGs, because you get so immense and you get so, I'll not say immense, but you get so into the game that you feel like as if you're living there already, versus you play like a game like Grand Theft Auto. Of course, you're going to find some things that you're going to relate to because, hey, it happens here in the United States, so most people would be accustomed to it, like cultural customs. So when it comes to Japanese games, I would like to know their customs as well, and how the world that they're trying to create through gaming and the story that they're trying to make through gaming, I just want to see how it plays out. Even though I may not relate to it, but I am interested in learning about it. According to Sakurai, Western players buy Japanese games with the expectation that they will provide something different from Western developed games. So there's no need for Japanese studios to adapt. Yes, agreed. It's not necessarily my own idea, but the trend in the games industry is that Japanese people should go for what Japanese people like, Sakurai explained. A while ago, there was certainly a culture of making Americanized products because various works were popular in the US. However, I feel that Japanese game lovers overseas are not looking for such things, but for something unique and interesting from Japan. In other words, I think the ideal is to make the games the way you like them, and the people who can accept them will enjoy them. Mwah, chef's kiss. Love that. Love that. In an interview earlier this year, Sakurai noted that while it's important for developers to make the games they want to make, they should also sometimes consider that it may be in the best interest of the industry to make something that's needed, even if it doesn't directly appeal to them. Sakurai explained that the people who make toys for children are adults who obviously aren't the toys demographic, but are still specialists in that field. He then cited his first game, Kirby's Dream Land, as an example of this, explaining that while it wasn't the type of game that appealed to him directly as an experienced player, he felt it was important to make a game for younger players. In a statement, he explained why Sakurai was given the award. The Japanese Agency for Cultural Affairs said Masahiro Sakurai has made a significant contribution to the development of the game industry by sharing his knowledge of game production widely through YouTube in an easy to understand, accessible format with a coherent storyline. An English version has also been released, and its influence has spread not only domestically but also internationally. And we believe that this is enough to earn him the Art Encouragement Prize. But as I said earlier, that yeah, Japanese games should appeal to the Japanese people, and if we gamers here in the West, if we're interested in playing these games, even though it appeals to the Japanese people, then hey, if you're interested in it, then by all means buy it, play it, try it out, see if you like it. Because yeah, I do agree with the statement that's said in this article that even though he made a game like Kirby Dreamland and he's already an experienced player, yeah, it didn't appeal to people like to him or his or around his age, but it's for the younger gamers for them to enjoy. And I agree with that because I remember my very first Kirby game was Kirby 64 on the Nintendo 64, and I loved it. I loved it so much. I've like overplayed that game a lot. I was very young at that time, so yeah, like games like that, it may not appeal to adults. Like, do I play Kirby games now? No, not necessarily. But I do remember being young and playing that game for the very first time, and I was very interested in it because the game was made for my demographic, for my age demographic. So I completely get where Sakurai is coming from, and I also agree that yeah, Japanese games should cater to their audience in Japan. Like yes, same thing with Western games. Like I understand when it comes to games like Grand Theft Auto, it is not widely accepted in lots of other places in the world because of how wild and just out of pocket the game can be. As popular as Grand Theft Auto is, it's not accepted everywhere because it has a lot of American culture into it. It has like a lot of American tropes into it, stereotypes, you name it. So other people from other countries may not like Grand Theft Auto to the point where they're going to ban the game from being sold into their country. But I understand the argument. I understand the reason behind it. Like, yeah, of course, there are going to be some games that are not going to cater to people that you create that are not going to resonate with a lot of people. But if you're coming from a certain country, like if there's a game that's being made in the UK, it's going to cater to, of course, it's going to cater to people to the West. And sometimes you might find, European culture being added into the game that, for us that are living here in the United States, we are not accustomed to it, but we can appreciate it. So overall, I agree with Sakurai on, hey, Japanese developers should just focus on making games for the Japanese market. Like, yes, absolutely. And for us that are here in the United States, that are in the West, it's our discretion whether or not if we want to play them or not. For me, when it comes to their JRPG games, if it looks interesting, I'm playing it. That's all I gotta say. All right, on to our next topic. PlayStation has formed new studio Dark Outlaw Games with Call of Duty Zombies lead Jason Blundell. The new first-party studio comes from one of the minds behind Treyarch's beloved Call of Duty Zombies. Sony has formed a new first party studio within PlayStation Studios. Dark Outlaw Games comes from studio head and director Jason Blundell. Former Treyarch co studio head Blundell was one of the lead creators of Call of Duty Zombies mode before leaving Activision in 2020 after 13 years. He would then serve as one of the co founders of Deviation Games. Deviation Games didn't get a chance to release its debut project, an original IP that was set to be exclusive to PlayStation platforms. In an interview with Jeff Gerstmann, Blundell confirmed that the new studio is staffing up and he would have more to share on the studio's first project in the future. I'm going to tell y'all right now, we're not going to see that game until the next PlayStation, until PS6. I'm going to just call it now. If it's going to be a AAA game, we're not going to see it until the next PlayStation 6. But if it's going to be like a AA game or even an indie game, there's possibility we could see something of it. Who knows? But if it's going to be it is a PlayStation first party studio. The chances of it going to be a AAA game is very high. So we're just going to have to wait and see. But as I said, if it turns out to be a AAA game, we're not going to see it until PlayStation 6. So right now, they're getting people up, hiring people, and we'll just have to wait and see what this project is going to come about, what game they're going to develop. So, article continues. I've had an amazing opportunity to create a new studio within PlayStation Studios for Sony, Blundell said. The studio is called Dark Outlaw. We've been working away in the shadows for a while. When we've got something to talk about, we'll step out into the light. It's such a privilege to be able to do it with Sony as a new first-party studio. Sony doesn't start up first-party studios all the time, so to have that privilege is humbling. Blundell wouldn't confirm where the studio is in the terms of production schedule, other than that, the studio has been going for a little bit of time. It's about getting the team to gel, he continued. I'm a programmer at heart, so let's test those assumptions. Is it working? You're trying to hit that escape velocity? Blundell also confirmed he will serve as the studio head and director for Dark Outlaw Games. Deviation reportedly over 100 strong in 2021 when it signed a deal with Sony. At the time of its announcement, the studio told Game Industry Biz that PlayStation deal ensured complete financial security for the years and years to come. The studio closed its doors in 2024. So, short article. Conversation with Jason Blundell.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeff Gerstmann. Welcome.
So, if y'all want to watch it, hey, that's on y'all. This article is coming from VGC. So, if you want to read it, it's all up on you. But yeah, I wonder what type of game. The only thing I question with this is what kind of game are they going to develop, and who is going to be their target audience. That is the only concerning thing with this. But hey, PlayStation got another first party studio. It's good, but we just have to wait and see what they're gonna cook up with. So, moving on. Alrighty. Japan government's worried about imitation attacks based on Assassin's Creed Shadows. Of course, now this got updated because I did see on my Twitter that there was a stealth patch that did went out to stop people from attacking shrines. Japan government recently convened to discuss a series of topics in a diet, one of which was the recent controversy surrounding Assassin's Creed Shadows. The game's more scandalous scenes have shown Yasuke, an African samurai, destroying shrines, sequences which have naturally prompted concerns in the Japanese government. In a recent discussion, Japan's prime minister voiced a strict response to these concerns, answering points raised by other party members suggesting that imitation attacks could occur in real life. Because I don't know if y'all keep up with the drama on YouTube, but there was a troublesome, annoying content creator, kick streamer named Johnny Somali. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say much about him. Just YouTube his name, and you'll see for yourself. Johnny Somali. But I just hope for the worst for him. Currently, he's in South Korea now, but I wish for the worst for him, like the absolute worst. That's all I'm gonna say. I ain't trying to. You get what I'm saying. Like if you just, yeah, that, yeah. I'm not. If I don't say it, I can't get flagged for it. I can't. But you get what I'm trying to convey at. Anyways, let's continue. Absolutely unacceptable. Hiroyuki Kata, a Lib Dem party member, brought up the topic of shrine destruction in Assassin's Creed Shadows at a recent diet, putting questions in putting questions to the nation's prime minister. He explained, "I'd like to ask about the Assassin's Creed issue. In the game, the samurai protagonist smashes drums, sacred mirrors, and altars inside the worship hall of a shrine that appears under its real name. He slashes at people who appear to be priests, shoots arrows, and engages in other violent mayhem. When I asked the chief priest, he said that the game company had not contacted the shrine to ask for permission to use the name. The politician floated the suggestion that imitation attacks might take place at real shrines across Japan and that other concerns like tourist pollution were also being considered. These details were reported by IT Media, picked up by Dexero. By the way of a response, the nation's Prime Minister Ishiba Shigeru said, "It is absolutely unacceptable to graffiti a shrine. It is nothing but an insult to the country. It is natural to have respect for the culture and religion of a country, and I think it is important to send out the message that we will not tolerate any behavior that does not respect the culture and religion of a country and will not tolerate it." It was a suggestion that such wanton destruction of culturally significant facilities wasn't replicated in any other Assassin's Creed title, prompting further worries from the Japanese government. The comments made by the Prime Minister and other party members are not indicative of any further actions. Now, earlier I did say that Ubisoft did put out a stealth patch to prevent players from trying to destroy shrines and whatnot, but who knows? Who knows? Like the game has like some controversy behind it, even though we don't know what the sale figures numbers are. But last I checked, 1 million people are playing Assassin's Creed Shadows, so it probably performed well. But hey, the game just came out this week, so we're gonna have to wait till next week to see what those sale figure numbers look like for the game, and of course, any other controversy that happens to come up on the surface that after this podcast episode we will later find out. So short one, but short to the point. And last article. Saber CEO claims he could have fixed Crystal Dynamics cost. Calls Saints Row reboot a disaster. I mean, yes, it was. And the game that we see on this screen is, oh my God, the Avengers game. Oh, that game was also a disaster. Oof. Let's continue. Video game development these days is significantly different from 10 to 20 years ago. Not only has technology drastically improved, but the cost of making AAA games have increased to the point that they even cost more to make than most movies. Unfortunately, the consequences of these high-budget AAA titles, are that if they fail to sell millions, the game is considered a failure, and more often than not, the studio has to shut down. Saber Interactive, the studio behind hits such as World War Z, Space Marine 2, love the game, you should definitely play it and buy it and play it, has been able to navigate the rocky road of game development that's bombarded with non-stop studio closures, project cancellations, and more. How they're doing it isn't really a secret, and it's one that the studio CEO, Matt Karch, wanted to implement in other studios too. In February 2020, the Embracer Group acquired Saber Interactive. However, due to financial hardships, Embracer soon had to shed some of its assets, and that included Saber, which was sold to Beacon Interactive last year. Another high-profile acquisition by Embracer was Crystal Dynamics, which they bought for $300 million in 2022. This was after Crystal Dynamics AAA live service superhero game Marvel's Avengers failed to live up to Square Enix's commercial expectations. We all remember how bad that game was. Woof. That game, oof. Even though I will applaud them for putting out a demo of the game, I played that game. I was like, bro, this ain't it. This is not it. And I think because this was also during a time where they wanted to capitalize on the Marvel's MCU, the cinematic universe. So, hey, why not? Especially now that you have Endgame, now you can have a Marvel, Avengers like game that you and your buddies can play, some DLC, some season passes along the way, some skins, all that good stuff. And the game was just, oh god, it was bad. The game was bad. Article continues. In an interview with GameFile, subscription required, if I click that link, Karch talked about the Crystal Dynamics acquisition and how he was frustrated by Embracer for not putting the studio under its belt, given they were known to be expensive since the studio was based in Southern California, which is one of the most expensive places to work in. Karch commented, "We would have been able to get their costs under much better control. Though this has probably meant that Karch would keep costs of the studio down by hiring employees in other parts of the world where it would have cost significantly lower." For reference, Saber Interactive has studios located in Armenia, Russia, Spain, Portugal, Argentina, Serbia, and other parts of the world, with their U.S. presence smaller due to cost issues. Hey, that's smart. Karch on Crystal Dynamics cost would have fixed it. Did this mean layoffs were part of the plan? Karch used Saints Row Reboot as an example of how costs outweighed the revenue and how it wasn't a sustainable business model. The Saints Row team is gone, Karch stated. Why are they gone? Karch asked before answering his own question. They were so expensive for what they were. They didn't know what they were building. They didn't have any real direction. It couldn't last. And so, who's going to fund them for the next game after that disaster? And for those that remember that Saints Row reboot, that was a AAA game. That was a AAA game, and that game failed miserably. Like, it was obvious from the early trailers of the Saints Row reboot that the OG team of Saints Row was gone. The OG team is gone. The OG team is gone. As I'm trying to make that clear. They're gone. The game definitely took some dramatic turns. I would say after Saints Row the Third, it definitely went in a crazy direction. Like, what is this game? Like, what the hell? I would say Saints Row the Third is when they really turned it up a notch and they really went in a much different direction. But after the fourth, they just went so far off. After Saints Row the Third, they just went completely way off. And then, okay, we're gonna reboot it, and not a lot of people like the trailer of that reboot. Like, what the hell? Then the actual game comes out. The game is loaded with problems. Yeah, dead on arrival. Saints Row reboot was dead on arrival. People had no faith in that. And now it's supposed to be the game to stand up against Grand Theft Auto. and it failed completely. Like, yeah. Karch added, it would be nice in an ideal world for everyone to have a job. Both games with 9-figure budgets are making 8 figures in revenue, and that's dooming a lot of developers, he later says. If I were running a team in California, my goal would be, okay, who are the absolutely must-haves in this group? And they exist. We have American talent at Saber, and who could do this for, a quarter of that price in Poland. To date, Crystal Dynamics is still under Embracer Group, and the studio is currently working on a new Tomb Raider game in collaboration with Amazon Games. Okay. As for Saber Interactive, the studio just announced Warhammer 40k Space Marine 3. Last episode, I was excited for that, so I can't wait for Warhammer Space Marine 3. Though it'll be years before it gets released, and that's the bad news. It's going to be years until it gets released. Like, I just hope that they continue to keep pumping content with Space Marine 2 because the game is still so good. It's still so good. Like, Saber, can y'all just, put more story content, like continuations, to keep us, you know, to keep us entertained, to keep us in the loop, especially for those who are new to Warhammer and they want to learn the lore and the universe of Warhammer 40K, even though it is well over 37 years old, because I'm 37 and the game existed before I was even born. So yeah, there's like decades of lore in Warhammer 40K. So to have new fans, use, the Space Marine games to continue to, bring in stories, bring in characters, let them learn about the lore, and so on and so forth. So I think that is it for that article. But yeah, Crystal Dynamics, like, I mean, I agree with what Karch said, that okay, let's downsize the team. Let's see, like, who do we need, and if it would cost less to get them to get that person of that talent in another country, like, hey, why not? Why not just do that? So that way we could definitely save some money, because creating these games is going to cost a lot of money, and we're hoping to make a profit with these games. So that way, hey, we can continue to keep making sequels of these games, and they continue to make profit. People are enjoying them, and it's good for everybody. But whoever was making the decisions for Marvel's Avengers and Saints Row the reboot, I hope that they are not in the games industry anymore, because my God, those games were a, just those games were trash. Just trash. Like, they were expensive to make, and it was overall bad. That's the sucky part. Meanwhile, Space Marine 2 is a great game, and it was worth the price. Like, granted, I bought the game for $70. It was definitely worth $70. The campaign is not too long. You can literally beat the entire campaign in one playthrough, like in a good couple of hours. The PvE missions are really good. You can definitely play with either randoms or with your friends, and it has crossplay with PvE crossplay. That's good. And then, of course, you also have PvP, teams versus teams. That's not crossplay, unfortunately, but I wish it was. And, the game's still going strong. The game's still getting content, and I hope it gets story content, because that's where the real bread and butter is at. But other than that, short episode today. Just, as I said, it's just me in the studio, just talking about these topics or whatnot. So I'm gonna get up out of here, y'all. Like to thank y'all for watching and tuning in and being a part of this episode. And let me go ahead and play that outro since we are here. There we go. Yeah. We're gone. get on up out of here. As I said, short episode. Just as I said, just me in the studio. But hey, that's what our Thursdays are for. Just short episodes, have conversations about some gaming topics that's been going on with today's crazy world. But for us gamers, there's always something going on within the games industry, so it's worth noting. But other than that, I'd like to thank y'all for watching and being a part of this. Greatly appreciate y'all. And of course, if you are, currently watching this on YouTube or Facebook, go ahead and give it a like. Like the video and share it as well. Share it with your groups, share it with your friends. Let the people know about the South Florida Gamers podcast. Yeah. Let them know about the South Florida Gamers podcast, where you can get your gaming news and information. And we're just, gamers here. Just casual gamers, just talking about games because we love games. And then, of course, we're also, keeping an eye on the games industry and see where things go, how things progress, regress, whatever. Good, bad. Hey, we're going to talk about it here on the South Florida Gamers podcast every Thursday night at 8:30 p.m. Thank y'all for watching. And of course, you can definitely find audio playback of the South Florida Gamers podcast on any audio hosting platforms. Just Google South Florida Gamers podcast. And we'll be back on Sunday at 1 p.m. with our new guest that we're going to have. You're going to have to follow us on our social medias so that way you know who we are going to bring on for our next episode. And it's going to be a good one. It's going to be fun. We'll have Waluigi back on for Sunday, and it's going to be a good time. So I'd like to thank y'all for watching and tuning in. This has been episode 123 of the South Florida Gamers podcast, and I am signing out. Y'all stay classy.